New Orleans Saints rookie wide receiver Jordyn Tyson is ready to steal the show at rookie minicamp.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I am your host, your friend Ross Jackson, and on today's episode, we're brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. On today's menu, we're taking a look at the consistency of the New Orleans Saints culture, which we'll immediately get an early look at as rookie minicamp begins today. We'll take a look at some of the standout undrafted free agents that have a chance to catch our eye at that rookie minicamp. And we'll kick everything off with some of the drafted rookies that have the chance to really stand out, including and led off by wide receiver Jordyn Tyson, who has every opportunity to steal the show today. We got all that and a little bit of lanyard for you on today's episode. So let's get into it. The New Orleans Saints will kick off rookie minicamp later on today, though I have practices today and on Saturday tomorrow, which we'll have access to here, credentialed local media, all of that. So we'll get our opportunity to be able to give you some feedback on what we're seeing early. There's a lot of stuff that we won't learn just because it's non-contact. They're not in pads or anything like that. But there's a lot of stuff that we will be able to learn, including at least getting an early look at some of the Saints rookies drafted and undrafted, as well as those veteran players that are there to try out, looking for their next opportunity, potentially here in New Orleans. But it's Jordyn Tyson, the Saints' first-round pick, number 8 overall, the wide receiver out of Arizona State, 6'2", 200 pounds, that has the ability to really steal the show as early as today as things get started. Now, there's still a little bit of a question in terms of how much are the Saints going to allow him to be involved, right? He was managing injury all throughout, or recovery rather, all throughout the offseason, played it very cautious there. I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints played a little cautious on their own as well, but that doesn't mean that he won't be seen. And that's the thing. I mean, when you have a guy that plays the way that a Jordyn Tyson plays, it's not going to be hard for him to catch your eye with any opportunity that he does get out there on the football field. That includes his ability to run routes. That includes the twitchiness that he has, the body control that he has when he has to go up and get it, the opportunities in the catch radius to stand out as well. There are a lot of measures around Jordyn Tyson that should allow him to stand out. And if he is fully participating, full go, being let loose, I think that's a good standout sign for him as well, as a guy that managed all that recovery over the course of the offseason and clearly by then would have made the right decisions, right? Like if him not participating in the scouting combine helped him get to his pro day, and then him not participating in his pro day helped him get to the private workout, and him doing the private workout helped him get drafted, and then him getting drafted helps him be on the field during rookie minicamp. Him making the decision not to participate in the scouting combine set into action all of the courses of action that took place to get him out on the field during rookie minicamp. So this is a player that clearly made the right decisions getting up to this point. So we'll get an opportunity to see just how involved he is and everything like that, but haven't heard much in terms of, any limitations or anything like that. But in any case, I don't think it's going to take much for a guy like Jordyn Tyson to stand out as we're out there watching these rookies. So he's going to lead off the list here of the guys that are drafted and have the best opportunity to really show off and show out. But he's not the only one. A couple of other guys that I'd like to highlight, player that we talked about not too long ago, just a few days ago, tight end Oscar Delp out of Georgia. This is a guy that was given a lot of blocking responsibilities during his time at Georgia, but averaged over 13 yards per catch just last year with Georgia as well, even though he didn't get a lot of opportunities in the passing game. Now he's going to go from that Kirby Smart, run heavy, tight ends or blockers, big body type of system over to this Kellen Moore system, which really stresses athleticism and wants you to go out there and use your quote unquote superpowers, as Kellen Moore likes to call them. And Oscar Delp has some superpowers. This is a guy that can go up and get it at 6'4", 248 pounds, jumping. He had a 38-inch vertical. He's also a very good mover with the football in his hands, has the ability to be able to find some open space after the catch and picking up some extra yards. With that 4.49 40-yard dash time, he's able to move quite well. And we saw that a bunch during his time with the Bulldogs as well, even though he wasn't necessarily given a lot of opportunities to go out there and do that. 20 catches last year, 24 catches the year before that. I think it was 21 the year before that, and hovered around 200 yards, 200 to 300 yards in each of those seasons. Didn't get a lot of opportunities, but here in New Orleans, he is sure to see a lot of chances to make an impact in the passing game. I've said it before, And I'll say it again. I think Oscar Delp has the potential to be the future tight end in Kellen Moore's offense. That's no shade at Juwan Johnson, but Juwan Johnson is, a veteran player, and eventually you start to turn over your roster from the veteran players to the younger players. We saw the Saints go from being a top 10 or a bottom 10. I guess let's say they were a top 10 oldest team last year by average age on the roster. And now, so far this season, they're a top 10 youngest team in the NFL, a little bit older on the defensive side than the offensive side. But man, this is a team that has really flipped in terms of relying on the veteran leadership to creating its own young leadership and moving things forward, with still some veteran leaders on the roster, of course. Like, I don't want to discount guys like Eric McCoy and Justin Reed and the return of Caden Ellis and all that. Like, I don't want to discount that Juwan Johnson himself. But the Saints are clearly pushing towards their new era with these younger players. And so you start looking at these guys that have been added, like an Oscar Delp, at a position where Juwan Johnson has no guaranteed salary next season, no guarantees on his base salary next season. Noah Fant has a 2-year contract, but has no guaranteed salary, base salary going into next season. And you have a guy like Oscar Delp, who's mad athletic, brings a lot to your offense, very versatile, doesn't tip the hand of the offense to the defense when he's on the field, who's now on a rookie contract. It's easy to start to look at a guy like Oscar Delp and go, oh, that might be the future of the position in Kellen Moore's offense, who is the type of tight end that Kellen Moore has found success with in the past. And then I'll wrap up with a mention again on Bryce Lance. Wide receiver Bryce Lance, 6'3", 204 pounds, 4.3, 440-yard dash. The speed is immediately going to be something that's going to jump off of the field when he's out there. Can't wait to see the way that he moves and all that. This is a player that blends athletic profile, size, like height, weight, speed, along with production, as we've highlighted before, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, 25 total receiving touchdowns. But the thing that I'm still most interested in seeing from him is where it is that he's going to be able to align. But beyond what it is that we have the chance to learn about him, which we discussed a few days ago, the biggest thing is, what can he teach about himself by going out there and making some plays, making some catches, things like that. So that's going to be a big piece that we're going to be looking for as well. Another one of those standout players that has a chance to really catch the eye here later on today and tomorrow at Saints Rookie Minicamp. I didn't mention guys like Christian Miller as well as Jeremiah Wright. It's because these are non-contact, short and shell practices. These are not, full contact 11-on-11 type stuff. And so not a real chance to see the guys in the trenches. But I think we'll get an opportunity to see kind of the work ethic, and we'll get the chance to talk to them afterwards. So that's where we kind of learn a lot about those guys. So not to discount them, it's just the format of these practices doesn't allow for a ton of evaluation of the trenches. Coming up next, a few of the UDFAs that have a chance to stand out, even though one of them is actually a defensive lineman. Let's get to that next as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Square. Look, there's a lot of exciting things about starting a business, but oftentimes keeping it running smoothly without juggling a bunch of disconnected tools can be a little bit of an inconvenience. That's where Square comes in. They're going to allow you to be able to bring everything into one connected system to help you take payments, track sales, as well as manage inventory, and of course, keep everything running smoothly, just like you're looking for. You were able to take a look at loyalty rewards. As a customer, I know it's convenient. Coffee shop near me uses it a ton, makes everything so simple, from fast payments to those loyalty rewards as well. So if you are starting a business or running one that could use some better tools, Square is here to help you sell, manage, and grow without slowing down. So right now you can get $200 off of Square hardware at square.com/go/LockedOnNFL. That's SQARE.com/GO/LockedOnNFL. Run your business smarter with Square. Get started today. All right, family. There are a few undrafted free agents that have a chance to stand out when it comes to rookie minicamps as well, but it's really the positions where they're playing that are going to be most important to me, because the Saints don't have a ton of open options when it comes to position groups, but there are a few where some UDFAs and tryout players just might be able to make a statement and carve a way to at least the 90-man roster for training camp. Let's get to that here as we continue on. We appreciate you very much, as always, making us your first listen and being an everydayer here on the show. Don't forget to check out the Everydayer Club, where you can get this show ad-free each and every day. Just head over to lockedonsaints.supercast.com or click the link in the description so you can get more information. So we've highlighted kind of the undrafted free agents that stand out, right? Defensive linemen, Michael Heldman has a real chance here, 10.5 sacks, 16.5 tackles for a loss, edge rusher out of Central Michigan, the Chippewas over there. And so, players like him, players like running back CJ Donaldson, as well as Rasul Faison. You look at some of the other guys on defense that are trying out that are undrafted, like Memphis linebacker Sam Brumfield and all that. There's a lot of, or Brumfield, excuse me. There are a lot of these players that we've highlighted here on the show already that have a real chance to, catch eyes, make a difference, make an impact, make the roster potentially, or at least a 90-man roster going into training camp and all that. But the fact of the matter is that the Saints don't have a ton of space available, right? Like they only brought in 10 and then 11 undrafted free agents, right? It was 10 initially, and then they finally announced the signing of Xazvian Harris, the big defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. He will not be participating in rookie minicamp. I think it was Nick Underhill over at New Orleans Football that reported that. He, of course, is still recovering from an offseason procedure, was in a boot, or not even a boot, right? He was on a scooter, I think, during the scouting combine. So still a recovery process that has to go into all that. So probably somebody we get an opportunity to see a little bit more of during maybe mandatory minicamp, maybe not even training camp, right? No need to rush on that. But the position that he plays is one that's gotten a lot of attention, right? Defensive tackle. And so for me, it's kind of about these spots on the roster where these players are getting the opportunities. A couple of places that haven't gotten a lot of attention over the course of the offseason, whether it be free agency signings or through the draft, are slot cornerback and off-ball linebacker. And I'm specifying off-ball linebacker as in the coverage linebacker, the middle linebacker, the inside linebacker. Think Demario Davis versus Micah Parsons, who would be more of an on-ball pass rusher linebacker, right? Looking at that inside linebacker spot, as we highlighted yesterday, Caden Ellis was the only addition. So that gives a guy like Sam Brumfield a bit of an opportunity to impress as a tryout player coming in undrafted and potentially doing what it is that Isaiah Stallbird did and working his way onto the practice squad and then potentially working his way from there. Now, Stallbird came in as an undrafted free agent signing, not a tryout player, but the Saints have no undrafted free agent signings at linebacker. They had no draft picks at linebacker. They had one linebacker addition in free agency, and that was Caden Ellis. And I'm going to give you a little bit more linebacker news in a little bit, but the Saints could use some help there. We've also seen a lot of attention go to the defensive tackle spot, right? Bringing in a guy out of Wisconsin, formerly of the LSU Tigers, Xavier Suggs. They brought in Keyshawn Silver from USC. They also added Xazvian Harris out of Ole Miss, who we won't see during rookie minicamp. They drafted Christian Miller. That's 4 new defensive tackle acquisitions. Oh, and by the way, they also re-signed and brought back John Ridgeway III early on in free agency as well. So it's 5 defensive tackle moves. So on the opposite side of linebacker, where they didn't do a lot of stuff, defensive tackle is a spot that all of a sudden got a lot of attention, right? But that kind of, to me, signals that defensive tackle, you might see the competition knob ramp up on that one with Devon Godshaw returning, with Christian Boyd returning, a guy that continues to impress during the preseason, impress during training camp, but not get many opportunities during the regular season, and in the return of John Ridgeway. And I'm not mentioning guys like Vernon Broughton and Brian Brzee in that conversation because they're not of the nose tackle ilk like a lot of these other guys are, especially Silver, Harris, and Miller, and Ridgeway, who were all either added or brought back. A guy like Suggs can play a little bit more of the 3-4 defensive end as opposed to having to be the nose tackle. But a lot of these other guys are these nose tackle builds, a la the Devon Godshaws, the Christian Boyds, all that. So just something to keep an eye out on there. So that's the other side of the kind of spectrum when it comes to this. And so that gives some of these players like Xavier Suggs and Nishan Silver the opportunity to be able to go out there and maybe impress a little bit. And again, because they play in the trenches, they're not going to stand out to us in terms of media. But if they're starting to lay down the finer details of what it is that the coaching staff is looking for, like Bo Davis, Saints defensive line coach, that's going to be a needle mover for those players. Same thing is true for Christian Miller, although Christian Miller doesn't have much need to move a needle right now. He's not at any risk, nor are the rest of the drafted rookies. Now, the other position that I mentioned didn't really get a lot of attention was slot corner. The Saints have possibilities there, but didn't really make any additions specifically for that role. In fact, actually, Mickey Loomis was asked about it after the third day of the draft. And he said that that was a position that they wanted to, like in an ideal world, they would have addressed that position early in the draft. And I think a lot of people took that to mean Mansour Delane in the first round. I did not, because we specifically asked him about the Alontae Taylor role, and he said that they wanted to address that position early in the draft. And so that gives me the feeling that guys like Trayden Stukes that went off the board early, or some of the other players that could have fit on the interior or on the inside at slot corner, those guys going off the board in the second and third rounds didn't give the Saints the opportunity that they were looking for to go after, and maybe they just didn't feel the same way that I felt about Keontae Scott, who was on the board for multiple, day two, for both their day two picks, and it was off the board by the time that they were on the clock in day three, round 4. And so with that, they've added a couple of guys like Jeremiah McClendon, who has some experience rushing the passer and being a run defender and tackling as well as in coverage. You look at a guy as well like Deshaun Jones coming out of most recently Alabama, but before that he was at Wake Forest where he played a lot more on the outside, but then he got to Alabama and he played a ton in the slot. And so he offers you some opportunities. I still think they should be looking to go after Kenny Moore. That's a signing that I think the Saints should absolutely make by the time that the season begins, if they can, right? If he wants to sign with them, it's a two-way street. But they have the money to be competitive if anybody's out there also trying to offer for him, which is not usually the way that we're talking about the Saints in May, but that is truly where they are. So lots of opportunities here for undrafted free agents to at least carve themselves a path onto the 90-man roster to be set for training camp. And that includes some of these tryout undrafted guys as well. But, you have the guys that are, looking at and eyeing roster spots like Alan Herron, the offensive lineman out of Maryland, CJ Donaldson, the Ohio State running back, Michael Heldman, the Central Michigan edge rusher. So there are absolutely opportunities there too, but let's take this one step at a time when it comes to the undrafted guys. Coming up next, we also get to learn a little bit more about the New Orleans Saints culture and how it's evolved from year 1 to year 2, beginning today at Rookie Minicamp. Let's get to that next. We continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. We live in a world where you can stream anything, get food delivered to you in seconds. That'll be at your house in moments. So you can do everything on your phone, but yet somehow buying tickets for your favorite events is still a ridiculous hassle. That is, unless you're using Game Time. Game Time is making everything far less complicated. They're going to make sure that it's easy to find tickets. You just pick the city that you're in. It's going to give you a list of all the different events. I was looking at some of the concerts that are on the way here in New Orleans. They got tickets to Bruno Mars for like $208. They got tickets for Boosie at the Cajun Dome for like $34. There's a ton that you can find over at Game Time today. And that's just the concerts. Wait until football season rolls around and all of a sudden Game Time could be your best friend, because those tickets sometimes get even cheaper as the kickoff time gets nearer. So go and check them out today. You can take all the guesswork out of buying tickets by downloading Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first order. That's promo code LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. The New Orleans Saints have an opportunity to put on display the growth of their culture from year 1 under Kellen Moore to year 2. What's being demanded of the players, their practice tendencies, all of those things. They begin to lay the groundwork for that today and tomorrow during Saints Rookie Minicamp. So let me tell you what it is that I am looking for. We'll kick all of that off here as we continue on and wrap up today's show. To make sure as well, for your second listen today, we appreciate you making us your first. But for your second listen, go and check out Locked On Pelicans with our good friend Jake Madison. You want to keep up to date with everything going on with the Pels head coaching search, which looks to be narrowing. You're not going to want to miss an episode of Locked On Pelicans over here as a part of the number 1 sports podcast network, Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Saints culture proved to be very strong in year 1 under Kellen Moore. This is a team that started off 1-8, 2-8, 1-7, then 2-8, and then getting to this kind of run at the end of the season over the course of the last 9 games, going 5-4. Winning, a stretch of their final games as well. And, getting their first real kind of win streak in a long time. here in New Orleans, because in previous years under Dennis Allen, it was a lot of like lose some, win some, lose some, win some kind of a roller coaster thing. Not like what the Carolina Panthers had going on last year, where they almost literally won every single other game. But it was a lack of consistency when it came to New Orleans in years past. And then you felt a little bit more consistency show up when it comes to the end of last season, when Tyler Shough stepped in and when that offense really started to get rolling. And when Tyler Shough got rolling and then, saw a lot of changing pieces around on the offense, wide receivers in and out, running backs in and out, offensive linemen in and out, all of that, you felt some consistency there in terms of playmaking ability to put points on the board, ability to be competitive, and ultimately an ability to win football games. And I think that all of that is worth highlighting in terms of where the Saints culture kind of helped to guide them last season, managing or weathering the storm, as Kellen Moore called it. And so I think now going into this year, you're looking at, okay, how does that culture strengthen a little bit going into this second year under Kellen Moore, second year under Brandon Staley on the defensive side, second year with Phil Galliano leading the special teams unit. They kept their entire coaching staff together with the exception of one departure being Jari Evans, who took the assistant offensive line coaching job over in Pittsburgh with his former head coach as a player, Mike McDaniel over there. But I love that they kind of replaced that position, not by name, but they replaced that position with Will Clapp coming in as an offensive assistant who will likely work with a lot of the same players that Jari Evans was working with. So you maintained the standard bearers of your culture at the coaching level. And then, of course, no changes in the front office, meaning that you maintain the standard bearers there. And you have perhaps the most important standard bearer now seemingly figured out in quarterback Tyler Shough. And I'm very curious to see, just kind of having a better understanding now of what Tyler Shough's attitude is, the way that he carries himself, the intensity with which he plays, the swagger with which he plays. How does him being the known bona fide leader of the team, because if you remember at this point last year, we were just learning that Derek Carr retired going into the first rookie minicamp. And that's where everything kind of changed in terms of what the Saints' plans were for that season. They went from being a team looking to compete to being a team that was hopefully going to compete, but that also understood that it was about to embrace and needed to embrace a rebuild. And I think they did, or even are doing, I think it's fair to say that they're still in that process, that they are doing a very good job since they kind of shifted that mentality. But now you have your standard bearer at the quarterback position. You have your head coach going into his second year and understanding a little bit more of the ins and outs. I mean, everything down to just knowing where the grocery store is moves the needle, right? It's just one less thing you got to worry about. And as you get more comfortable with where you are, you get more comfortable in the environment that you're in, you can do your job at an growing rate, at an improving rate, right? And so for Kellen Moore and Tyler Shough, here's a chance to start to evolve the culture. Here's a chance to start to demand more. Here's a chance to start to ask for and push for and challenge your roster in a way that maybe you didn't the first year when you didn't even know who your quarterback was going to be at this point last season. And so I think that this is a major opportunity, just getting into this rookie minicamp, to start to set the tone. It's just rookie minicamp. We're not going to see position battles decided. We're not going to see players earn starting jobs. We're not going to see players earn contract extensions. We're not going to see any of that, right? But this is the first exposure to practice in this format for the new rookies. That means this is your first opportunity to establish the expectations and the standard for those rookies as they hit the field. Now, you don't have Tyler Shough on the field, but you will have Kellen Moore. You will have Brandon Staley. You will have this coaching staff. And so finding way, and by the way, you're also going to have several players that were on the roster last year participating in this minicamp. That includes players that were on the practice squad last year. Dallas Beanham, the cornerback, Elliot Davison out of UTSA, the safety, so on and so forth. There's a lot of those players that are also going to be a part of this process. And so they become leaders to this group of veterans coming in, trying to earn an opportunity, but don't know a lot about how it is that the Saints do things, to the undrafted free agents that have been signed that look to them and go, okay, you're here for another year. I want to be like you. I want to be here next year too. Or the undrafted players that haven't been signed that are here to work out, that are trying to just get signed like those guys did. And then you have the drafted rookies that maybe hold the draft status conversation a little bit differently as they were drafted. And these players are coming back in their second year after being undrafted. But still guys that came through, made it through a rookie season, battled through, and then hung around and are now going to be there. So they get an opportunity to step into a leadership role as well. So how do they impact your culture? How do they, and that process started a long time ago. That process started when players were allowed to start going to the facility to start doing off-season workouts before this opportunity to start getting out on the football field. And so here's a real chance for those guys to step in and be an extension of the coaching staff and help to generate and push that culture. A couple of little culture things that I'll mention. Ben Johnson last year was famously criticized and praised, right? A little bit of both, for his kind of hard-nosed approach to rookie minicamp. That was a playoff football team. Robert Saleh apparently kept his rookies off the field for rookie minicamp entirely. So which one are you going to be? Are you going to be the guy that gives the drafted rookies a pass like Robert Saleh did? Or are you going to be the guy that demands and commands much out of your entire rookie class and tryout class like Ben Johnson did? Or are you somewhere in between? I think somewhere in between is valuable, but I do think that not going easy on these guys early is a very important first step. All right, family, time for a little bit of lanyap for the real ones that made it to this point in the episode. The New Orleans Saints restructured linebacker Pete Werner's contract today, or at least the news broke this morning, coming from our friends over at Spot Rack. Do a good job tracking salary cap, and all of that was confirmed by Catherine Terrell as well over at ESPN. And so now the next thing that we're looking at is, well, what does it mean, right? Opened up about $4.08 million. The Saints are sitting with about $10 million available, according to various cap tracking sites. So that should put them around $14 million. So that's a little bit more than they need to sign their rookie class and all that. But then you add in the undrafted class and all those things. And maybe, just maybe, it's about making sure that they can keep some spending money and spending funds available after they do take on the charge of that new class coming in. This is now kind of when guys start signing their contracts and all that as they arrive for rookie minicamp and all of that. So we should start to see some of that news pouring in. We'll see what happens with the second and third round draft picks. Obviously, have always been a lot of conversation about guarantees and all the things that push that there. But Traden Stukes, who was drafted number 38 overall, has already signed his contract. Christian Miller is drafted 42 overall. So maybe, just maybe, there's not too much hassle here with Tyler Shough already getting a fully guaranteed contract at pick 40 overall. You might as well just give the fully guaranteed contract at pick 42 overall this year. Anyway, so we'll see where things go when it comes to all of that. But just some news for you. That means two things, though. The Saints have a little bit of extra spending money, and a lot of it's going to go towards the rookie class. But they'll still have some money available on top of that now. And Pete Werner, for folks that were maybe looking at him as a potential trade piece or potentially even cut candidate, not going anywhere. And that was our expectation on the show all along, was that Pete Werner was not going to go anywhere after, at least until after this year. And so no need to worry about whether or not Pete Werner is going to be on or off the roster, at least at this point. So now, the other thing that I will say, though, is that after they sign up their rookie class and all those other things, having a little bit of that spending money is still indicative of an intent to be active in the market. And so with lingering question marks around Cam Jordyn, as well as, again, the pursuit that I think they should go after in cornerback Kenny Moore, at least on a one-year deal, it does at least signal that after they sign their rookie class, they're keeping some options open and keeping some funds available should a signing make sense. All right, family, coming up in our next episode, everything we learned from rookie minicamp. We appreciate you very much, as always, for making us a part of your day, part of your routine, for saying yes to me in the show. If you see me, please say hi. And if you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on your favorite social media at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know what the family's doing, how you living. Let me know how you're momming them. And trust you, that nation. I'll holla at you.